Right, someone's waving a thumb at me somewhere in St Albans. That's probably Jake Ellacott. Good evening, Jake.
Evening, Jake. Evening, everybody.
Good evening, Lee Wood as well. You all right, Lee?
Oh, so are you, mate? You okay?
I can't complain. Yeah, can't complain. Here we go.
You normally do, so
that's to come in a minute.
Oh God.
Okay.
Here we go. A Podful of Saints, number 37 for the 2021-22 season, and it's a joyous occasion. We've got a St Albans City goal to talk about, and we look back on 2 games. Lee, you were very lucky. You were not at Priory Lane last Saturday to see a 1-0 defeat to Eastbourne Borough. Jake, you were...
No, David, I heard it was a feast of football, a cacophony of skill. No?
Yes, the website also said the 3-2 game against Bath City was a thriller. Well, it doesn't take much to get that bloke excited then. Jake, you're at Priory Lane. Did you find it a feast of football?
Well, the highlight of the day was going to a small village near called Pevensey in West Ham, and sort of going to the local castle, the ruins of the castle. That was a highlight, to be honest with you, because the football, from a Saints perspective, wasn't amazing, was it? Apart from Liam Soul had a decent shot from about 25 yards in the first half, and Zane Banton somehow missed the target when it looked easier to score after he'd come on. Otherwise, the Saints, it was almost reverting back to the bad old days, wasn't it, of a couple of weeks ago? You know, flat, no real drive or desire. The shape was all wrong. Ian again admitted that after the game. And I think the most disappointing part for me, and I'm sure we'll discuss this in a bit, was the substitutions and the changes. It just didn't. It was too late, and when it did happen, it just didn't work.
Well, I've got a thing about substitutions, which I'll mention in a minute. As you said there, we only had 1 shot on target, Liam Soul's shot in the first half. And that was the most disappointing thing. We just didn't create, did we? There was nothing. We never looked like saving a game. Once Charley Kendall got his 20th goal of the season for them, it was virtually game done.
Yeah, one supporter also came along and said to me, you know, looking back on the game, it was always a 0-0, wasn't it? And apart from that mistake that led to Charley Kendall's goal, you know, clearance off of him, it probably could have been. But, you know, towards the end, to be fair, Eastbourne had a couple other half chances that maybe they should have scored. But, yeah, the Saints just really flat going forward. I don't know what was up, really, to be honest. I think it was probably the midfield and not enough support players. You know, we started without... Well,
surely not, no.
We started without Zane Banton or Mitchell Weiss on the pitch. And, you know, I think that pretty much set the tone.
He did. We saw one of our old boys, didn't we, Charlie Walker?
Yes, he did. Did he do much? He came off fairly soon. Well, quite early, didn't he? He wasn't much excitement.
Yeah, he didn't do too badly, I thought, actually. And he's unlucky with one header, which Cameron Green kicked off the line. He could have got a goal. In fact, his record, he's got, 39 games, I think. There are 103 games for them. And you look at our squads, only Shaun Jeffers has got a better ratio. And in fact, 3 of their players have got a better ratio than our second highest scorer, which does suggest, back up something we said all season, we've lacked support outside of Shaun Jeffers for getting goals.
Yeah, we absolutely have. Lee, you've echoed this a lot this season, haven't you? That, you know, outside of the Shaun Jeffers, we don't have an amazing amount of goal scorers in the team, apart from someone like Zane Banton. Even him and Mitchell Weiss, the goals have dried up to some extent this season. But
given the fact that Zane missed that glorious chance on Saturday, we can't, you know, we shouldn't really be hoping too much from him in terms of the goal scoring charts. It was really interesting. Well, I say interesting because the post matches are now becoming vomit inducing in terms of the loaded. Well, no, because the loaded questions are they're there for all to see. We don't really gain any real perspective from Ian's take on the game from these things now. What I would say was he stood up and he said that he was to blame. And I think that was right, because it can't be the fans. So, and I think he got it fundamentally horribly wrong at Eastbourne. He keeps reiterating how deep the squad is, but he doesn't seem to utilise any of them. There's no point having subs on the bench if you're not going to bring them on to try and influence the game. And they can't do a great deal from sort of 10 minutes before the end of time. So I'm not entirely sure what Ian sees when we're struggling against a team like Eastbourne, that he can't look to the bench. Now, having a big squad is all well and good, but there's not enough quality there. That's counterproductive.
Well, we can back that up, actually, Lee, with some stats. You're right, we've made a lot of late substitutions this season. So you're expecting your players to turn the game around in the last 5 to 10 minutes, which isn't going to happen, except for a fluke. And in fact, we've made 74 substitutions in National League South matches this season. And only one of those substitutes has scored a goal, just one solitary goal away to Braintree Town. So either it means that substitutes don't make a difference to a game, certainly not in actual goal scoring, or, as we have suggested a few times, we haven't got strength in depth.
No, I'd agree. And who was that one substitute? It was Mitchell Weiss, wasn't it, down at Braintree back in September, October? And how long was he on the bench for on Saturday? Especially, and we'll touch upon, whatever game we played on Tuesday night. Who did we play again? Oxford. And also the Bar City game. Both of those games, Mitchell Weiss had quite the impact, I thought. He did a lot of running, a lot of stuff. I mean, to leave him on the bench for 85 minutes in the game that you're chasing, I mean, it really was quite baffling to me and to a lot of supporters, I think. And I think, of course, Ian might be wary to change the shape of the team. I mean, he was sort of forced to when he brought David Noble on, etc., because some injuries the players picked up. But why not go for it with Mitchell Weiss with 15 minutes to go? Something like that, at least give him a chance. Even if it's in place of Joe Neal, just bring him on, make a change. Because Dave, we actually went sort of one up top at one point, didn't we? Which was when 1-0 down, which didn't really make sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense. It happens again. We get the ball, we attack, somebody stands in our way, we go backwards. We lack the conviction to really go at sides, which made the second half on Tuesday, which we'll come on to in a minute, all the more surprising, because we did actually have a go, which was good to see. And in fact, on Tuesday, we didn't make a single substitution. We admitted it doesn't make a difference then, so we won't bother anymore.
I think, like Lee said, it comes down to the depth and the quality of players you've got on the bench, doesn't it, really? They might not necessarily be goal scorers, etc. Of course, it's great if you do have one, but we haven't really had any from the bench. Think of times gone by, and Sam Merson, Sean Lucians, the likes of those you could bring onto the game. They might not be amazing, spectacular players, but they're decent players in this level, and they could change a game.
But what sort of message does it send out? Sorry, Taz. What sort of message does it send out to these players when they can see what's unfolding in front of their eyes, and yet the management don't feel that these are the players to help turn the game around for certain situations? I mean, it's just a bizarreness, isn't it? The fact that Ian's admitted he got it all wrong from the start in terms of formation. Personnel is the personnel that he's got. They're his players. He brought them in. He must have done it for a bloody good reason. So why not utilise them? Having a large squad is great, but it's no good if you're not going to utilise the players you've got at hand. And for me, we got what we deserved against Eastbourne because we got it all wrong from the absolute start.
I think we've got to mention David Noble again. I know most weeks we seem to bring Nobby up at 40 years old now, but when he played the other week, he came on, was it Dulwich, and he looked terrific then. I thought Tuesday on the grass of Clarence Park, he would start. And now you're wondering, why is he at the club at all anymore as a player? If we're not going to start him in games like that, when we need a bit of creativity, we know he's getting towards the end of a career, and nobody knows it himself. He's mentioned it. But what is the point of him being there if we're not even going to risk him for a decent time in a game? Yeah, but you could start with him and take him off at half time.
No,
someone's deluded somewhere along the line, because it's either Nobby should be in Ian's ear saying, look, I'm fit. If you put me on the bench, then I should play, because if I'm fit in any capacity, I've got to start that game. I'm the captain. I have to influence this side now. Is he a luxury player now? He comes on, he has his 5 minutes here and there, does some fantastic skills, and it leaves the fans scratching their heads. What if he was on for half an hour? What if he started? What if he come on for a half? How could he influence the game in that way? Luxury player for me now, because if he's not fit, he shouldn't even be on the bench. That is it. You can't just have him there as a token gesture because he's Nobby. It's just bizarre how Ian handles some of these substitutions, and it's a testament as well, to be honest with you, about, do we really know what our best team is? Do we really know what our best formation is? Joe Neal has come in now and upset the apple cart entirely, because up until that point, Ian was more than content to have just one up front. But now Joe Neal's come in, he flung him in, and he's done amazingly well. Hasn't quite scored yet, but that'll come. But I don't know. It's just, I think there's a lot more questions than answers in terms of personnel, certainly.
I'll just finish with a stat off on those subs. Since Ian's been at the club, he's made 554 substitutions. And of those subs, they produced 30 goals, which is not an avalanche at all, is it? But of course, when you bring on players like Reece Williamson, Sean Lucien, as Jake mentioned them earlier, you've got creative players there. You look at our bench on Tuesday, apart from Nobby, you've not really got creative players there.
I'd also love to know how many, and I wouldn't expect you to work this out, Dave, how many of those substitutions are sort of in the last 10 minutes of those 500 odd over his whole time at the Saints, Ian, because, you know, going back a few years, we would, amongst supporters in the pub afterwards, always comment, Ian made these changes quite late, you know, be it Sam Merson, whoever, even these game changers players. So it's always been something under Ian, I think. And it's no real surprise that the amount of goals isn't particularly high to me, but you know, you'd have thought in 500 games there'd be more than 30 goals from substitutes in my mind, given what substitutes the point of them is. So, but there you go. I
did look it up earlier, Jake, and I can't find it at the moment.
I knew he had it somewhere. Yeah, I knew he had it somewhere.
That'll wait till next week. Should we move on to Tuesday then? First half, I thought Oxford should have gone in maybe a goal or two to the good. They looked quite sharp up front. I thought Joey Schifano, he looked quite sharp, but the one who really, I thought, caught the eye was the other one, number 10, Zach McEachran. I thought he gave us a lot of problems first half, but second half, that's as good as we played for a while, and we looked very useful going forward.
Yeah.
And Shaun Jeffers scored a very good goal, courtesy of Joe Neal's setup. But Shaun actually cost us a victory in the end, didn't he?
He did, yeah. I mean, maybe a little bit harsh though, but first half, you know, Michael Johnson had to make some reasonable saves actually, and so it was good to see him in action. But I say, you know, Oxford created a few openings, but I thought first half, even though Oxford shaded it, I thought the Saints going forward still looked much more lively than they did on Saturday at Eastbourne. So that was already an improvement for me. Even though we weren't quite as good at Oxford, who we know are a good side, they're third for a reason, it was an improvement. And as you say, second half, it was sort of different gravy almost. Some of the football we played at times, and, you know, the connection of Joe Neal, Shaun Jeffers and Mitchell Weiss, those three look like they could be a real handful.
Joe's been due a decent game, hasn't he? He looked very good on his debut at Dulwich. He had 3 quiet games since, but the second half, Tuesday, that really did offer hope. If he can just get a goal, and you'd like to think it'll be on his way. What did you make of it Tuesday, then, Lee?
Yeah, vast improvement. And it was, you talk about Joe Neal there, he almost played a bit deeper in the second half. It was that sort of that false number 10 slot, if you like. I thought, as you say, Tavs, it was fantastic and the best half of football I've seen for quite some time. Some of those balls over the top in the second half, absolute filthy. And it was really, really good. You know, we could have had 4. You know, Joe Neal had a shot blocked by the keeper, good height. Jeffers had a shot blocked by the keeper, again, good height. Jeffers scuffed 1, missed 1. You know, it was wasteful. But the fact of the matter is, compared to the fact that we only had 1 shot on target for the previous couple of games, to have so many opportunities is a great thing to have, but it's wasteful. We're not putting them away. And Oxford were poor in the second half, and we made them look poor. We made them look average, and it was the best football. We got it out wide. We got it out wide quickly. We used our men. We took men on. Wingers taking men on, for crying out loud. You know, that's been a sight sorely missed on the green turf of Clarence Park over the past few weeks. Really good. And you know what? I thought we had them. It just needed that second goal. And as soon as the second goal wasn't exactly forthcoming, you always had that opportunity, that niggle that Saints fans had the back in their head. And it's, oh my goodness me. It was unfortunate. It was frustrating. But I'm buoyed by the fact of how he played in that second half.
It's funny, wasn't it? The 4 or 5 chances that came Shaun's way, they're all very similar. It was a low cross in, it wasn't a high cross in, a low cross cut into the centre of the goal. And normally you'd expect him to stick at least 2 or 3 of those away, but we can't complain. That's his 30th goal of the season, which isn't a bad return, is it?
No, you know, star boy, as some might call him. Lee loves that one. But yeah, it was good to see Shaun back in the goals again. And I want to give some mention to the defence actually, even though we conceded a penalty late on, and I think Alex Lancashire gave it away, and it looked like he was struggling with a knock then. And I know a few supporters were saying he should have been subbed beforehand, but the defence overall, I thought, again, big improvement. And Joy McKenna, Tom Bender, and Cameron Green actually, given that when we saw the team sheet come out, I thought there's 3 left backs in this team. This doesn't bode well. It was actually that solid 3 at the back actually worked really well. And Joy McKenna, fair play to him. He's been out of the team for a little while. He came in, played some great football actually, defended well, and I thought he improved Tom Bender actually, because he allowed Tom Bender to sit a bit more deep and do less hard work, while Joy McKenna and Cameron Green had a bit more of the legs. So fair play to the defence for stepping up on Tuesday.
One player had to sit it out on Tuesday was Michael Clark, and I thought he was actually our best player down at Eastbourne on Saturday. He had another very good game, but he took another knock. He took a knock against Bath. He took a knock in the first few minutes at Eastbourne when he made a terrific block, and that was only in the first 2 or 3 minutes. He soldiered on after that, but it led to him being out on Tuesday, and he hopes to be back on Saturday. Yeah, that was interesting, that left-sided bias, if you like, but it seemed to work out well with Alex Lancashire pushing forward again.
Yeah, it did well. I thought Alex looked a bit more natural in that position than he did away at Hemel. Aaron Jones again, I thought, put in a decent performance at right wing back again. It was good to see. So I think the players are adjusting to this more 3 at the back formation we're playing. But I think it was just good to see a couple of centre halves actually play well for the Saints and look good together, because the amount of injuries we keep picking up in our centre halves at the minute, Big Dave, Michael Clark, etc. We haven't been able to have a settled back line, have we, for so long now? That it's good to see them improve. And Lee, what did you think of the defence second half?
Defence was solid. I think as the game wore on, you can see they got a bit leggy. But it's a testament to the fact that players, they haven't played that much together. So to play as well as what they did was encouraging. One thing I would like to pick up and put this question to you fellas. Goddard's new role in the middle of the park here is almost being sort of moulded as the new Nobby in that sort of ball retention. He's now the one dictating the play and picking out these passes. Do you feel that a player of his skill and talent is wasted in that position, or is it needs must? You've got to have a player of quality on the ball in that area.
100% needs must. We've got to have somebody who can spray a ball out there, and he can knock it out wide. He can thread it through. He can go on runs as well, which is vital. When you're 30 yards out from goal, you really do put pressure on the opposition defence. And I agree with you, Lee. It's needs must.
I thought it worked well on Tuesday. I didn't think it worked as well at Eastbourne on Saturday, so I don't know if it depends somewhat on the formation of the opposition of the other side. I thought Oxford actually gave us a little bit more space in midfield than maybe I expected. But yeah, Johnny Goddard, you've got to have someone there, haven't you? Because Kyron Wiltshire, he gave the ball away quite a few times. I think Neil mentioned this in his post-match report, and I don't know if he started to look a little bit tired, because he's pretty much played almost every minute for the Saints this season. One of the only players too. So I think you've got to have someone alongside him with legs, and if that's got to be Johnny Goddard because we're not getting another midfielder this season, then it's got to work. So.
We've got a couple of things there. Oxford had 2 chances in the first half, but there's so much space in the penalty area. I haven't seen the highlights, so I don't know if they're on there. And they really should have buried those, which really would have put us under pressure. So still a bit of concentration at the back goes lacking. But Kyron Wiltshire, I agree with you. I thought he had a poor first half. He was Oxford's best player, the way he kept passing those green shirts. But the second half, that was the Kyron Wiltshire we were watching on telly last season. On the screened games, and that's the sort of player we'd like to see more often.
I mean, possibly is it because the Saints were playing positive attacking football on the ground, and that suits him. It looked like after half time the Saints got a real boost in the arm from Ian and Chris, real confidence, and they played with confidence. And I think when the whole team does, as we saw in that run up to and including Forest Green, when we play nice football on the ground, quick movement, everyone in the team plays well. So I think Kyron Wiltshire, it's no good having long balls head go over his head or trying to get him to win aerial challenges in midfield. That's not that sort of player. He's quick energy, high tempo. And if the other players around him are on that, then I think he's going to feed off that confidence. So hopefully we can repeat that again going forward.
I was looking at the situation after the game, and obviously I was gutted because we deserved to win that. However, in the cold light of day, I've sort of taken some context into it, given the performances at Eastbourne in particular, Braintree as well. The fact is that we're now playing some football. You know, we've got a little bit of purpose about us now. And Tavs, I know you've just grimaced there, mate, but the fact is it was an improvement, and Vice again for me was absolutely superb on Tuesday night. I think everything positive that happens from the Saints comes through him. It's a perfect fit. It just takes defenders away, and it creates space for Goddard and Jeffers and now Neil in particular to make those late runs. Again, it's just menacing for everyone. So, yes, whilst it was disappointing on the night, looking back at it now, Oxford are a good side. I thought we probably would have won, but I'm taking into the fact that we're now playing some football and we're creating some chances.
The reason I grimaced there, Lee, you said about good football, it was a one-off in recent games. We've really got to hit that level. Got to hit that level more often, and consistency would be nice, but more often would be a start. And you look forward to these next two games: Concord Rangers Saturday, Billericay Town next Tuesday. There's two games. They've got to be 6 points. No two ways about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, as you say, we've got to have a game, the whole 90 of it, haven't we? You know, against Bath City, we had a tremendous opening 25 minutes of great football. It fell off, didn't it? So, you know, going into these two games now, I think Ian again mentioned it on Tuesday with Neil on the Hearts ad. I think they did a specific article about it, how these upcoming games have almost got to be a launch pad now for the final run-in. And Ian actually echoed his comments. He actually echoed his run-in when he first came in. You know, he came in and he had a great run from, you know, this time of the season, the final 6-7 games, however long it was, until the end. And he said he'd spoken to Tom Bender about it, who was, of course, pretty much the only player left now at the club that was still there at the time. And, you know, he said that if we can repeat that, we've got half a chance. So you've got to look at these two now, because it's two winnable games before we've got some much tougher fixtures coming up. If you can get 6 points from here, it's going to be looking reasonable. But we can't let the second half from Tuesday be another false dawn.
That's right. That's right. And also, of course, we didn't beat Oxford City, so our record against sides in the top 10 is 12 games, 1 solitary win.
Yes.
Tabs, can I ask a question, mate? We've sort of said to this, it's got to be 6 points, got to be 6 points. The fact of the matter is that over the last 2 or 3 months, we've been so atrociously bad. We have been bad in comparison to the first half of the season, but yet somehow we're still in touching distance. We're still sneaking into the playoffs. Is it a case of, fine, if we lose one and we win one, or we pick up a point here and there, as long as we keep ticking over, that may well be enough. Not ideal and not what anyone wants. But what I'm saying is the league is that tight. And the fact is, we could still play atrociously crap, pick up the odd win out of 3 and still make it into there, mate.
Right, well, we are still living off that run of 6 straight wins in September and October, 18 points out of 18. Since then, we've got 27 points, is it? Something like that, from 22 games, which done over a season, a full season before the COVID season's kicked in, we would have had 3 16th place finishes and 2 15th. So our form, aside from those 6 games, it's been pretty poor. It's well down the table. So we've got to make sure we cash in on games like these two coming up. Concord Rangers, 1 win in 10. Billericay, 2 wins in 20.
Yeah.
But this is dangerous territory, fellas, is it not? We sit there, and I don't even know why we bother giving predictions anymore, because we are so horrendous at it. It just makes everyone laugh at us when we go to the games. But listen, of course we should be looking at 6 points, but just given the consistency of this side of late, we could probably end up losing those 2 games and go and winning the next 4, because that's just how crazy this season's been.
The next 4 include the likes of Edgefleet and Maidstone, Lee. It will be nice.
You know what? Yeah, but you know what, mate? Maybe we save some of our better performances for the top team, because that is just so City, isn't it? You know, I don't know. I mean, I know what you're saying, and our form over the course of the season has been horrendous, and we don't deserve to be anywhere near the playoffs. on that stat that you've just given, but we're still there. You know, we're not playing well. We are going full games with like one shot on target. You're not going to get into the playoffs, nor do we deserve to on that basis. However, yet here we are again, still, you know, clambering on to that last spot.
Yeah, if we play like we did Tuesday, you really would fancy 2 wins coming up in the next few days.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key to it, to be honest, is not changing the forward players. I think going into Saturday's game, stick with a team that played so well against Oxford City. You know, we saw the changes to the team against Eastbourne didn't work. You've got to stick with a team that did well, and that means, you know, starting the likes of Mitchell Weiss, Joe Neal, and Shaun Jeffers. And at times they did play almost as a forward three. But, you know, that season that Ian kept us up, you know, the forward 3 and 4 we were playing at times, some brilliant players, you know, Falasitas, Fearfanis, McDonald, etc. You know, it might not have been a conventional looking forward 3, but it worked and it scored goals. And it worked second half against Oxford. So if it can work against Oxford, who we know are a good team and are inside the top 7 for a reason, why won't it work against the likes of Concord and Billericay? We've got to go for it against them. There's no point dallying, is there?
Because they are scrapping for every single point. So they'll pack out the midfield and they'll just try and pin us back. If we've got 3 up top, it only takes 1 or 2 passes and they're on the front foot and the ascendancy heading towards our goal. I know what you're saying, but they are scrapping for points and they're just going to pack out the midfield, bulk it up, maybe have 1 up top, and they'll play off from there. It's up to us now. Do we sort of play to our strengths and have that 3, or do we sort of try and counteract that for a little bit, maybe half an hour, and then surely class will prevail. You know, Cream will always rise to the top, stretch them, take them out wide. That's where Banton and Vice come into it. You know, take it apart. That then leaves the midfield runners to go forward and create those little spaces. Hence, we talk about Goddard. That's where he's going to thrive. That's where he's going to shine. Joe Neal, making those absolutely lung-busting runs. You've got to look at it and think, well, you know what? Can Concord and Billericay handle that? I don't think so. And you should be looking at 6 points, certainly, but that's not always the way it goes, where you've got players playing in City colours.
So on the evidence of Tuesday, even if Michael Clark is fit, no changes to the starting 11?
No, Clark comes in for me. In for me. Yeah, absolutely. He's a non-league Maldini, mate. You know, everyone deserves a day off, but considering just how well he has played. But I would only play him if he's absolutely fit, because we've seen this before where he's come on, he's picked up something, he's had to go off again, and that means Ian's got to rejiggle the shape unnecessarily when it could have been prevented from the absolute start.
Who would you bring him in for, do you think, out of that defence at the minute, out of Tuesday's defence?
It's a tough one, isn't it? I know that Tom Bender got a load of grief for his performance at Eastbourne, but then again, he turned up on Tuesday night. So I think you could pick from any of them, to be fair. I mean, McKenna, for me, isn't as good as Clark. So maybe have a look at that option. But I don't think anyone deserves to be dropped as such, but you've just got to be replacing the better player for that play. You know, it's just football. Especially as well, you know that the balls are going to be coming in high as well, especially when, you know, that's all they're going to do, Concord and Billericay. They try and pump it up long, more direct approach, try and pin us back. We're going to need Clark's height in there and his reading of the game, his understanding of the situation to sort of maybe just calm things down and feed our midfield players. Yeah.
I mean, talking of the team as well, selection, do you agree that we've got to have Joe Neal, Shaun Jeffers and Mitchell Weiss in the team on Saturday, given how they played, whether Mitchell's ice on the left or etc.? Because I like Neil and Shaun, but I don't see how you can drop Mitchell again, in my opinion, after his performance.
It's unfair, but I think given what we said... Sorry, go on, Tabs, go on.
No, I was just going to say, on the evidence for Tuesday, I wouldn't actually make any changes. I'll give Clark another game to recover, even if he goes on the bench on Saturday. Put him there, another game to recover, wouldn't do any harm. We're playing on a plastic pitch on Tuesday as well. So another, he makes sure he's fully fit for that one, maybe.
Good point.
Yeah.
Talking of Tuesday, away to Billericay Town, they're bottom of the table. They've got a little bit of a problem. Most of you have probably heard about problems at Chelsea today with Roman Abramovich being sanctioned. You got some news on the financial situation at Billericay, Jake?
Yeah, they seem to be a bit of a hole, and I dare say that's sort of a hangover from Glen Tamplin. I think 300k losses last season, or 2 years, and owe about 1.6 million. So not great looking. So, but then we have to remember last season during COVID, they put out their youth team against us, or was it a year before, and got a draw. So there you go. I don't think it'll have any implication on Tuesday night.
We'd imagine the way Travelling City support, that should wipe out most of their debt next Tuesday. And on that point, we are now COVID-free. Clubs are already running coaches to away games. We're having a promotions chasing season, despite a lot of the things we've said tonight. Let's get as many supporters as we can to these away games. We've got all these young kids. They obviously can't drive. The club won't do anything to help supporters get to games. But the trust, Jake, you're on the trust. What's happening about the possibility of getting coaches to away games?
Yeah, I think it's difficult for the trust because so often before they've lost money on coaches. I think, as you say, this season with sort of rising travel costs across the board, I think ideally you'd be able to. I think it's about trying to get someone to try and organise the travel, but it's so tricky. I think it's been a long time now since we last ran a coach. I think it might be talking.
There's no excuse not to do one. It's a trust. It's for supporters.
No, I know, and I think it would be great. I think it would be great if the trust and the club could work together on it. Just looking at the idea. So, but you never know.
Yeah, stop looking at it. Get on with it. We've always run them in the past. Get on with it.
It's not as though the club have come into the financial windfall, mate, is it? That we can help subsidise this sort of thing to get the players and the supporters and everyone down there supporting the club. Jesus.
I say, because all these kids, they can't drive to games. So, and also with the high cost of petrol nowadays, it's going to be more attractive for people to go on a coach. They can wear masks and whatnot. You don't have to, but they can do. And just get people to these games. Ideally, don't look to make a profit. Just get numbers there, but make sure you don't make a loss either. But you can tailor that to the size of coach or even minibus you have to get. Just help get as many supporters there as possible and get behind the team.
I know. I mean, Dave needs his own coach, really. But if anyone does echo those thoughts, let the trust know and the club know as well. So, let them know.
I think that they should try it for 2 games, especially key games on Saturday as well, because that will give you an indication whether the appetite is there for it. I disagree with Taz. I wouldn't mind Trust taking a little bit of a loss just to say you've offered the service and see how it is. You know what I mean? You can't run at a massive loss, but if anyone says, "Oh, why are you not going to run coaches to these games?" Well, we ran 2 and no one took us up, so therefore we're not prepared to take the hit any further. It would be nice if the club was to say, you know what, you pay half and we pay half, and that's it, because the players want the fans down there just as much as the fans want to be there. But we've got to help get them down there as well, because not everyone likes to go on the train, not everyone likes to go on the underground, not everyone has a car, and as you say, Taz, some of us crash theirs, but some of us don't. So it's a case of, let's sorry, mate. Let's utilise what we have at our disposal, and that's, and don't forget the fans in the first place helped raise a lot of that income from our cup run. So let's put some of that back into the fans themselves and put on some coaches to get those fans down to the games.
I think we're on agreement there, and now Jake's got to pull his finger out. What does he do on the trust there, Lee? Any idea?
He makes the tea, and what I've heard, mate, it's atrocious at that. So, yeah.
Should we get to predictions?
Let's not, because let's face it, we're crap at
them.
Go on, be brave. Concord on Saturday.
3-1 Saints.
Fuck off. Oh, mate, I'm gonna go 1-0. I think it's gonna be a lot tougher than what people think it will be.
God.
Right, Billericay Tuesday, 2 wins in 20 for them, as I said earlier.
Yeah, 4-0 City. Bosh.
I was gonna say 2-0 Saints.
Yeah, well, that's good. There's the 6 points. You both agree.
So we'll see you back here this time and next week then for demoralising nil point.
Oh God! Surely we can do it.
It would be great to hear other fans' opinions on our upcoming games. Maybe you could get in touch with us, Jacob. Let's give him the Twitter handle, my friend.
Yeah, at Podful of Saints. We've had a few asking why we aren't talking about the tannoy or what's wrong with the tannoy at the minute because Dave isn't talking about it. So clearly some people are interested, but don't tweet us about that anymore. And the email will be on the screen and in the description as well.
I have actually had a message. Oh, here we go. Go on.
Jonny Seabrook. Johnny, what are you doing saying Sean Machine, a goal machine, Shaun Jeffers puts unwanted pressure on him straight away? Just announce for team. And when we score a goal down the park, do we have to have that hideous noise after it every time? And whoever is on the tannoy, can you actually announce the opposition goal scorers loud enough and the substitutes loud enough so we can hear who it is? We are actually there to watch both sides, not just one side. Rant over.
There you go.
Anything else, Dave? In that little...
Oh, yeah, plenty.
Lee, did you want to get your point out now?
The point was, I had a message from a friend who you also know, Dave, asking if you're going to start some sort of like car club or, sort of help take supporters down to games. Especially now we've spoken about the lack of a coach.
I have to say, my last journey with Dave in a car didn't go well, so I wouldn't recommend it myself. But
yeah, but he doesn't like you, so maybe he's trying to bump you off, mate. So you might like a few other of his fans more. So
if we got any more supporters in Tottenham, I'd take them.
And on that
I don't think Tottenham got any supporters in Tottenham, come to think of it.
On that wonderful note.
All smiling.
All smiling.
Good.
Oh, brilliant.
Good.
Well, thank you all very much for joining another, whatever this was. And hopefully we'll see you next week when the Saints come back with 2 impressive wins. Thank you very much, everyone.
And before that, we'll see you at Clarence Park on Saturday.
Bye-bye.
Cheerio.